You may be wondering why I took all those lovely daffodils out of this galvanized tub. And I'm not tossing them. I am going to plant them in different parts of the garden, but I wanted to move this tub. I no longer wanted it here, so I had to empty a little bit so I can move it. And it's also great because then I can refresh the soil before planting it up again. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put it or what I'm going to put in it. I had thought of putting my Coco Loco roses in this to let them get a little bit bigger before deciding where to put them in my garden. So that is an option. But anyways, now it's light enough. Plus I let it dry out some and I transplanted. I had some ornamental, I think it's ornamental oregano that I put, and I planted it over there where I think it will do better. In the direct hot sun, for me, it kind of wanes or wilts in the summer and doesn't do as well. So over there it gets part shade, so in the afternoon. So I think it will do better over there, plus that bed needs some help. So I'm gonna show you what I found underneath my tub. Something you know I have been struggling with. Okay, right down there, it's where a gopher tunnel went under my tub. So I know they're really bad back here already, and you've mentioned me talk about them numerous times. You're probably getting tired of me mentioning them. So that's why I have been putting things in the ground in containers or gopher cages. You see I have 2 dahlias right there in little pots that are getting ready to go in the ground. Excuse the noise behind. They're still working on that house behind me. And you saw me putting up the lattice. That is the lattice right here, as that helps to diffuse the view through there, because we look right down onto the back. Now they still haven't gotten the roof on that place, but they will. It's supposed to be a matte black. I think it'll be pretty. Great backdrop. So now I'm going to work on my hay racks right here. And I had kind of given up on them, as was it last year or the year before? They didn't do very well. And I figured out that I did not keep them watered well enough. And I was watching Laura over at Garden Answer refill hers and watched how she put the drip irrigation in them. And I've been running the irrigation back here. I'm just installing it in my Secret Cottage Garden right now. Sorry the sun's in my eyes if I'm squinting. But so I think they will do so much better, and I really wanted the petunias to come down and drape here. I have my wave petunias. Some I started from seed and some I bought because I can't resist them even if I start a bunch from seed. But that way with the drip, they'll get the proper water they need, and I think they will thrive. So right now I pulled out the old liner, and to help this a little bit, I think I'm going to put it in there to help act as a sponge. You see how it's falling apart? That won't hurt a thing. It will compress down under the soil and will act as a sponge. So I think that will help it along too, to have just a little bit more. And then you don't have to use quite as much soil, but I was really going for the sponge effect. And it's a good way to use this up. You could also compost this if you want to. Now I'm just pressing it down in there, and it will compress more as it fills with the soil. So now this is a new liner I bought for this, and I got it on Amazon because they didn't have this size, or they did have this size. I just skipped them because I didn't think mine was that size. But I pierced the edges so it stayed with the liner instead of sinking down as I filled it. I just pierced it with some just garden wire. It's rusty, so it kind of blends in with the color of this. It had been attached with what is those zip ties, black zip ties, so it blended in. But I didn't have black. I only have white, and I didn't want that to show. So anyway, so I have my good soil. This is good potting soil, a good quality. This is E.B. Stone's Edna's Best, and it has lots of nutrition, bat guano, feather meal, all kinds of stuff in it. Fur, it's, forest products, shredded wood, composted down, and so it's a really good, healthy, well, free draining, but also moisture retentive to the degree that it needs to be product. And through the season, because these things will lose nutrition fast, or because it gets leached out with all the watering you need to do, I will fertilize with my water soluble. It's called AgroThrive, and what drips down below will help down below, but it will also feed the soil microbes and not just the plants. And that's one thing I really love about it. Okay, I've got this filled 3/4 of the way full, and I'm gonna get my petunias to put in here, and then we'll start planting it up, and then I'll top it up with some more soil. So here are my pink petunias. These are my pink wave petunias. They're already getting pretty long. This is a 6-pack, and I have them sitting in this tray, and I was having them let them soak in a product called Organic Rev mixed with water. This will help them with transplant shock, and I will prune maybe some of the longer stems back, and I can root those if I wanted to. I have plenty of petunias, so I don't need to, so I'm not going to go to that work. And I have a video on how to root petunia stems or cuttings, so you can go back and see that. But I want to get these in here, and I have some white ones that I also started that I may put in there, or I might put some more of the creeping Jenny in. I'm not sure yet what I want to do, but I think I'll put all 6 of these in here, and we'll see how far that goes, and we'll see what else maybe we can add. So yes, I'm kind of overcrowding the planter, but this is what I bought these for, and I can always remove one later if it seems to be not thriving. But I wanted instant color, instant success, and that's why I'm putting them out fully flowered. So let's get planting. Now I don't have my gloves on. I usually love wearing my gloves because my hands get so dried out. I don't know about you, but it becomes bothersome when my hands get so dry. Maybe it's just my old age. But anyway, so I'm gonna just dig it along. Make sure I have a good depth. I probably will set these on top. Now these are probably root bound. Yes, they I don't know. Oh dear. Pulling them apart's a real trick with them this long. Anyways, they are kind of root bound, and you've seen me do this before. I just pull off the bottom of the root, and that Organic Rev will help the roots to establish and get going again. So I'm just gonna set them on top because I still have enough room to, and I'm sorry I could get you up closer, but I know you know what I'm doing instead of me having to show you. As I'm just gonna, sorry for the loud banging next door. I should have got out here earlier, but it was so smoky. So smoky. Let me move the camera for you so you're not looking at my backside. Well, I set them in here on top of the soil I had put in, and I somehow had turned off the camera. Anyways, but as I pulled them out, they were root bound, so I just yanked off the bottoms, and so the roots, they weren't too bad. They weren't spinning round and round. It was going down, and it was kind of wrapped at the bottom. So I just pulled that loose, and you can see now the roots can have more of a easier way of going ahead and rooting in the soil. I had thought of getting the white ones to put in here with it. Maybe I'll put a couple in there, just a couple, because these are really going to fill in and take off, and they probably will swamp anything else I put in here unless it was super vigorous or upright growing, which something upright growing would work too, because it would help provide a taller, something to view from afar up tall. I'm going to go get the white ones. Just 1 second. These are the ones I started from seed inside. They're a bit on the smaller side. They are a bit on the smaller side because they've kind of had them tucked away. And look at those beautiful roots. I'm loving these little containers that I got from Bootstrap Farmer, but this is perfect. This will go in here and hopefully get growing fast. I put all 6 in here of the pinks, and I'm going to put it 2 over right here, and then this one 2 over. Beautiful, beautiful reds. 2 over from this side, so it's kind of evenly spaced. And then I'm going to fill in with the soil. You don't need to see me do that, pretty boring. And then I'll decide if there's something else I want to put in here. I had, like I said, thought of creeping Jenny, but creeping Jenny can really get aggressive and fill in. But I did put it in pots in my other one, and that could work too. But maybe I'll just go with, sometimes I just like one color. Chartreuse, I know I have sweet potato vine that I saved overwintered. I could put that in here, and that's pretty aggressive too, so maybe it'll match the aggressiveness of the petunias. But I love that chartreuse green. Okay, there's that. I'm going to fill in and get the sweet potato vine and put in there. I forgot I had used most of my but my overwintered sweet potato vine in my father-in-law's containers that I made for him. So, hanging containers. So I did have a piece. Here's a piece of one I rooted off of those. And I'm just going to stick it down in here between the white and the pink. Or maybe I'll just do it between these two pink. A little more room there. I don't know how well it'll fare because I'm going straight in here rather than let it develop more roots. But that had a pretty good root system on it. So I'm going to fill in, and then I'm going to water this well with the organic Rev, so all those roots and everything can take off. I will root some more of the sweet potato vine to add in here, or we're supposed to go by a garden center Monday, and I think they had some of this. I want the aggressive one. There's a lot of choices of the now more mounding, more subdued ones, and I want the aggressive, big, hanging one that just takes off, because the wave petunias are also very, very aggressive, fast growing, and fill in. So I need something that can keep up with them. This is an ice scoop, and I use this so much in the garden, especially when I'm scooping up soil and adding it to things or filling containers, or I just can't, it's amazing. I saw also Erin over at the Impatient Gardener. She also loves the ice scooper. It just is an amazing tool that you might not have thought of for the garden. I actually found this one in the barbecue department of my local hardware store. They were using it to scoop the wood pellets for the smokers, like Traeger and what have you. So I'm trying to pull out all the little stems that may be in there so I don't bury them. Though, you know what? If you bury them, they will root. So that's the fun thing. Now, one thing I do love about wave petunias is they will send out seeds at the end of the season, and you might get them to come up of their own volition. The sun's coming out. I've got to get this done because I'll get too hot, and I've got a lot to do out here, and I don't want to get overheated. I work to the shade, meaning I find a shady spot in the garden, or I put up an umbrella. I have a great beach umbrella that you can stick right into the ground, and I can put it over me when the sun's getting hot. And so if you can work to the shade, you can work longer, or in the shade. My grandmother called it work to the shade. She went around the house. She had lupus, a form of lupus, so she had to be very careful about sun exposure. So she was very savvy. She did not let that deter her from working out in her garden when she could. She always wore gloves, long sleeves, etc. So, okay, I'm going to get this watered in, and we'll stand back and take a look. So now I got it filled in, and I'm going to water it with some of the water mixed with organic Rev. Now I'll put the link to it in the description box below, and I have a whole blog post on what it is and what it does, but also their website will give you a good explanation. Helps with heat stress, cold stress, helps the roots to get growing and develop, helps with transplant shock. So you see it dripping below? That's a-okay. The plants down there will benefit from it too. So just want to make sure this is good and soaked in. And I'll look for any pockets of maybe soil that needs to be filled in where it sank down, etc. Let me get this out of the way. Now, ideally, that should have been done last night so they could kind of have overnight in the cool, etc. But I didn't get to it. So had to do it this morning, and they will do fine. They will look a little peaked, or how do you say, a little wilty, but they will perk right back up, especially once it cools down this afternoon. We're supposed to be in the 80s today, but I think they'll be just fine. My plan is to get another of those hay racks, those long ones, and put right back there along the back fence behind the bench. You can see the foxgloves coming up back there. My foxgloves usually get a lot taller. I think it's because we had such a cool spring that they stayed shorter. But anyways, and then I have a smaller one that I'm going to put right behind the bamboo there. And then I'm going to plant all the pink wave petunias with the white in them. And we should have a curtain of beautiful blooms in a very short time to enjoy.